Right.
Technically, there's two things: the bills, and then the approval of the nobody just wants to get that down. The district deal. For the mileage.
Good evening. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask the roll be called, please.
Feldman. Here. Holzhauser. Here. Humbles.
Here.
Smith. Here. Kyra.
Here.
Wagenbach. Wisdom.
Here.
I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The board will now move on to the public participation portion of the meeting, and I believe we have some guests here this evening. Mr. Andrews will begin with the superintendent's report.
All right, so the district has received 4 FOIA requests since the January 18th regular Board of Education meeting. Mr. McKenzie has fulfilled 3 of these, and 1 is still in the process of being fulfilled. Next, congratulations to our Dunlap Shine Award winners for January. Ms. Melissa Roan is the building secretary at Ridgeview Elementary School, and Mrs. Katie Miller is 8th grade ELA at Dunlap Valley Middle School. So Dr. Dearman and I had presented them with their Dunlap Shine Awards in front of other staff or students. And we're able to surprise them. That was great. So thank you to those who had nominated them, and we appreciate everyone sending in those nominations. Next, as everyone is likely very much so aware by now, we had an unfortunate accident last week, Monday, February 5th, when Bus 50 was involved in an accident at the intersection of Allen and Town Line Roads. Thank you to the very focused and quick, steadfast work of Mrs. Beth Hines for saving what could have been a very much so worse situation. Lonnie Edwards, the bus monitor on the bus as well, jumped into action, as well as all of our students who responded the way that they need to and have practiced within those situations. So we, as a district, are just very thankful for everyone doing everything in the moment to make sure that everyone was safe and getting the assistance and attention that they needed. Thank you to Drew Grandin, our Director of Transportation, who arrived on the scene, organized everything, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Kasla, Dr. Adrian, and Mr. Hess for being there to help take roll, make sure that students, everyone was able to contact home and get everyone reunified. So thank you to the giant effort there, and again, we're just very thankful that the situation was not worse, because it absolutely could have been. We will formally be recognizing Mrs. Hines and Mr. Edwards at next month's board meeting. Just a reminder that tomorrow there will be an SIP day, which will be half day for students while staff are here in the afternoon, and then we will not have school on Monday in observation of President's Day. Registration for current kindergartners is open, and then registration for next year's kindergartners is currently open, and then registration for current kindergarten through 11th grade students will open on Thursday, March 7th. And then right now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Johnson, who's going to introduce our 8th grade girls basketball team at Dunlap Middle School.
All right, good evening. First off, thank you to the board for recognizing our 8th grade girls basketball champions tonight. Throughout the season, this girls basketball team, they worked hard in practices and games. They grew cohesive as a unit on and off the court and ultimately became state champions. The first girls basketball state championship in Dunlap Middle School history, so congratulations to them. They ended the season with a record of 25 wins and 5 losses and beat Mount Zion in the championship game held at Normal Parkside. A huge thanks to the Dunlap Middle School community and the Dunlap community as a whole for their support and encouragement throughout the season. Now we'll introduce the players and coaches, and Mrs. Wilkie will hand them a certificate that is presented to them by the Board of Education. So our 8th grade coach is Nick Romolo. Assistant coach, let's hold our applause until the end, and then we'll give them one big round of applause. Assistant coach who can't be with us tonight, Christina McWilliams. Assistant coach, Cameron Niesman. And our players, Liliana Albaro, Ava Brooks, Michaela Buss, Tanisha Dupad, Kiera Haywood, Riley Hopwood, Addie Kearns, who's not with us tonight, Michaela Montano, Harshita Ravapati, Addie Reed, Bryn Rickenaw, who's not here tonight, Annie Stiegel, and Sarah Syed. Congratulations to our 8th grade team on a great season and state championship. Congratulations, ladies.
Congratulations. We do not expect you to stay for the whole board meeting. We know you have homework and other things to do, but congratulations on a job well done. Well, thank you, Coach. Thank you.
Nice job. Good stuff. Yeah. First one ever.
Thank you, parents. We know it takes a lot for the parents as well.
Shop.
At this time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, this concludes the public participation portion of the meeting, and the board will now move on to information discussion items. The school activity accounts reports are included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Next, Mr. Adrian will present information regarding the 2024 Summers Project. Dr. Adrian.
Hello, guys. Welcome back. Hello. I know that number is a little bigger than you'd hoped. You've had a chance to look at those summer projects, $1.6 million. It's a little bit less than what's in your packet because we had a vendor come in late this weekend with a bid. You're able to get better pricing. So it's a little bit less. I'm down to, I think it's 1.615. So not a whole lot less, but a little bit less. There's some big projects on there. Namely, what you decide to do with the parking lot extension, that's probably the biggest one. We have our rooftop units down at Valley, 7 and 8. Those cool the office, the foyer, the gym hallway, the locker room, so those are pretty important. The disappointing thing we're running into with a lot of our larger equipment is it's not that old. You know, Valley is a 2008 building. You know, you hope to get 20, 25 years out of some of those appliances. We've already replaced a couple boilers there this year on emergency funds. Now we've got to do some rooftop units. Same thing at Hickory Grove. That was a 2013 building. And we've replaced hot water heaters over there. Boilers are up for bid there. So those are some big ticket items. Obviously our maintenance. Yeah, Mike?
Have you spoken to one of the HVAC companies to find out why those things are going out sooner than normal?
You know, they're always brand specific. It seems like every engineer or HVAC person likes specific brands. And if something goes bad, they're like, well, that brand's not very good. We sell a different brand. So you try to do something that's reputable in that area. But it really comes down to what our HVAC guy is comfortable with now as far as putting new stuff in. But they're like, well, you know, they tell you 15 to 25 years. You got 15 out of it, you know, but we always want more as a homeowner. So
We have maintenance contracts on all of those. They're coming in regularly, maintaining them.
Our maintenance guys maintain all of our HVAC stuff, yeah. We used to have services, then about 5 years ago, we switched out of that and went to our own employees. And I think our HVAC guys do a good job, but some of that stuff, internal parts and stuff, they salvage and they find stuff online, they do a good job of getting us up and going. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just too far beyond repair. But to your point, before we replace anything large, we do have outside consultants come in and run it through to make sure we're going down the right path. So another big item on there, obviously, is the roofing agreement that we've got as far as maintenance, and then the parking pavement maintenance agreements. Important to keep all those things maintained. That was one of the things that Dr. Dearman asked me to do last year, was put together a 10-year plan for our roofs and our 10-year plan for our pavement, because those tend to be the most expensive things. And now we're working on a 10-year plan for our kitchen equipment and appliances. Those tend to add up quite a bit also. So you get rid of those bigger projects, and then you're down under $900,000 on basic routine maintenance. So, any questions on specific items?
And there's some of these that just have red blocks on them.
Yeah, those were already, once we looked at the list, we just said no on those already, that we could wait on those. Yep, and then the NTEs are not to exceed amounts. We've got some, ideas on what those will cost, but we're kind of waiting on that.
Some of these that are category C, Scott, they all come out, or some of them are still in?
Yeah, all the Caesars, they're all still in there. Whatever's in there is still in there.
We're, our budget for this year is not looking great. At some point, Mike McKenzie's gonna come back and show us where we are vis-a-vis the original budget, but it's still gonna be very red. So, are these all items that have to be done this year?
Well, they're all items that are recommended to be done. I mean, I think that, you've done a pretty good job as far as impressing upon us about how important it is to maintain things, like our pool, like Wilder Weight. And it's one of those things where, like, for instance, Ridgeview, some of the stuff we've got there for the lighting replacement, we give them some pretty large incentives from Ameren to switch over. And Ridgeview's been on the books, I think 2001 maybe is when it was built. And so it's 24 years old, and once you put new lights in a hallway, you got to paint the hallway too. It hasn't had paint, so stuff like that.
Any further questions or discussion?
I just want to thank Dr. Adrian for providing some additional information to me as I went through that. And just like he said, and 7 of the 31 of the priority A projects, so 75% of the total. The biggest piece was the one we discussed last meeting, which would have been the parking lot.
Yeah.
There's some other items on there, like the RTUs, those type of things that need. I did have one question. DMS does not have any priority A items.
Yeah.
Is that because we've maintained and?
Well, that's a good point. So, Wilder Weight was probably in the most need last year, and our next building that probably the most need is DMS. It just doesn't have any of the large priority A stuff, but it's got a lot of the cosmetic stuff. It's a 40-year-old building, and floors, lighting, stuff like that, paint. That's all part of that, but no huge mechanical issues. We've done some repairs over there on the roofs. We do some repairs over in the gutters. So by and large, we feel pretty good about the mechanical and the structure of the bones. It's just the cosmetic stuff and maintenance stuff.
And, as I look here at the list, Wilder Weight has a very low number, $5,800.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
as we're looking forward to Wilder Weight, I'd like to see how we're doing this. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
We spent a lot of money there last year, as you know, and it's one of those things where how much are you willing to invest now when they've got an end near in sight?
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, Dr.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Information regarding the 2024-25 student fees is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion on student fees?
I just want to make a comment as I go into this. As I look through this, I think there's one item on the student fees, if I remember correctly, and I'm gonna pull it up.
Uniforms?
Uniforms for, is there more than one? Oh, I guess you changed one other. Okay. I didn't realize that. Graduation went from 15 to 20? Okay. I didn't see that one. Well, I'll have to take a look at that. But when I looked at this, I saw the one going for the PE shorts from the middle and high school going from $10 to $11. And that was the only one on the list at the time. So, when we have something very minimal like that, I would probably hold off until we have more fragmented views, because that would only affect, I'm thinking PE shorts, maybe, would it be 800 students? It would be the sixth graders most likely and the freshmen maybe. So I just wanted to make the comment there, but I see the graduation one, I'll have to look at that.
Okay, any other questions? Information regarding the 2024-25 facility rental agreement is included in the board packet. Any questions or comments on that? Information regarding the district pavement maintenance plan is included in the board packet. Any discussion items or any discussion on the pavement maintenance plan? Information regarding the new parking lot bids for Dunlap High School has been included in the board packet. Any discussion? Any further questions? Information, oh, go ahead.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So we received the bids. What type of time frame? Are they pushed out? What is do you know?
Well, I mean, as far as their timeline,
Yes.
we would start in June if we were
Oh,
able
okay.
to act at the next board meeting.
Okay,
Now, I want you to be aware that that was a really interesting bid process. You saw the bids there. The first bid came in at 340, then the rest were like 385, 390.
One was
Then it was like 348.9 or 338.9. Like,
Right.
so if we really dial in and focus on that. So I was really happy to see that. That's just the parking lot, and let me look real quick how many spots it gives us. That'll give, right now in that parking lot is 118 spots. This would add an additional 146 spots, so quite a bit more.
Yeah.
We are exploring a possible addendum to that, as an entryway off of Legion Hall Road into there, to see if that's feasible. Into that parking lot directly instead of going around.
right.
Dr. Dierman believes that may alleviate some of the pressure off that, but that's gonna be explored as an addendum that I can bring you later, depending upon whether you decide to use that. So, right now, that looks like an entryway right into the lot off of Lincoln Hall Road with, two exits, so one can go right, one can go left without stopping everybody up, and one entrance. So, and it would take up maybe 5 or 6 spots, but the engineers seem to think that that would be a logical place. So our engineers are talking to IDOT, because that's a little bit different, because it had an existing entrance there before, it's closed in, it's already past an existing entrance date. They've already approved the district office that was there, so IDOT, there's a lot going on with that, as you guys, you know enough to know that.
We discussed that they could also go through that district lot. You know,
Yeah,
come
when they
in and
looked at
turn-
that, they didn't think that was an option.
No.
A couple of engineering firms didn't, because we'd lose a lot of parking, to make it wider, so we'd lose about 25% to a third of the parking we just
Wow,
had.
okay.
They're like, that's probably not a good idea.
Well, I'm not sure if I agree with that. You're talking about just a drive that goes from the administration parking lot?
Oh, no, I'm talking about a bus lane. Yeah, they talked about that too. We've got a rendering on that, and not an official rendering, but a mock-up. But they seem to think that the one down further would be better for that.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. But
More
if they
expensive.
say no, we have a fallback plan.
Yeah, we do, but that would still have to be clear with IDOT. Because they use the analogy as like you said you're gonna build a house, and you did, but then you put a Walmart in next to it. So since it's so close to the intersection, IDOT would have to approve that.
If we begin in June, that would be complete by the start of school.
Yes, that would be the goal, yes. It's pretty straightforward, that ground has already been leveled, so surveying wise, they were really pleased, it's a pretty straightforward project.
Good.
Thank you,
Very
Dr.
good.
Adrian.
Yep.
Information regarding an additional entryway, excuse me, into the Dunlap Middle School and Dunlap High School campus has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? All right. Information regarding bids for the rooftop units 7 and 8 at Dunlap Valley Middle have been included in the board packet. Any discussion? Next, Mr. Andrews will present information regarding the 2024-25 staffing requests. Mr. Andrews.
All right, to speak specifically to the special education request, I did ask that Dr. Hastings join up here as well.
Yes, question before you start, man.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could put a microphone on that desk? Because every single time we have a presentation like this, you're facing us, talking to us, and then the people in the audience have a hard time hearing. Is it possible to add a mic to that?
Why don't you just move this one over?
Because I'm sure that those people want to hear your pearls of wisdom just as much as you do.
All right. Alrighty. So this first slide here is just our ongoing rolling enrollment snapshot back from 2002, paired with major building projects that we had within the district since then, realizing our increasing enrollment. Starting off, we'll take a look at our elementary staffing needs, and really we're just looking at our ESL programming needs as it relates to staffing. As you can see from the table before you there, we've had a significant increase at Ridgeview Elementary School specifically, which to make sure that we are able to provide services to our multilingual students to bring them up in their proficiency levels so they can be dismissed from services in a timely manner. We are looking at needing an additional 1.0 FTE ESL teacher there at Ridgeview. Currently, we are covering by splitting across the district to meet our ESL needs. But as our population continues to grow, looking to make sure that we are staffing accordingly, not losing time with people traveling between buildings. Additionally, at the elementary level, last year as part of our transition to implementation ELA resource plan for elementary students, we had proposed using ESSER 3 funds for the literacy coach and said that we would be coming back at this year, to ask for that position to be renewed, thinking that we would need to continue to pay for that out of our, to continue the position to pay for it out of district funds, but we will be looking to pay for that out of a grant for the next school year, so would not be looking to take that on out of district funds. Just wanted to provide an update there. What's that?
Is the grant, is that a multi-year or is that just how does that work?
Yep, it is a multi-year grant currently, so we'll continue to always look for different ones, but it's a grant we got this year for the first time and we'll have for the next 2 fiscal years after this year. And
you'll use it for that literacy coach?
yeah, that would be one of the expenses we would look to do.
And it's not just for next year, it's for a couple of years?
For the next 2 years would be the hope. At any time, because it is a federally funded grant, you do, the first thing they put on the disclaimer page is that at any time they can recall this. But that is one that before I even proposed this, made sure that they were going to be renewing it. And in December, they had said that we would be getting those funds again for the next fiscal year. All right, next, middle school staffing needs. Again, you'll see that while at Dunlap Middle, a little bit down for the year, looking to go back up, or for next year, still going up a little bit there at Dunlap Valley. And the table here is where you actually see the grade level breakdown. When you're looking at Dunlap Middle, which is where we'd be looking to add, for the next school year, we do have an increase of 21 students at the 6th grade level. And while at 6th grade next year at Dunlap Valley, we do have a decrease. You still have those 2 large cohorts shifting up to 7th and 8th, and would be looking for those additional staff members to cover those sections at 7th and 8th grade levels next year, because last year we did add 2 additional FTE at Dunlap Valley. And then just an item of note, because you do see that decrease there, the next 3 years, if we were to just capture and take a look at current 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade students, we are looking at an average of about 200 each year, anywhere between, actually the number is 201 and 211 at Dunlap Middle over the next 3 years, and then 195 and 180 at Dunlap Valley for those incoming 6th grade classes. So looking to stay steady and increase, certainly there.
Let me interrupt for a second.
Yep.
If it's going to be that large of a decrease at BBMS, then you're not suggesting a reduction or movement of staff from one school to the other?
Well, currently we do have a staff member we have staff members at Valley who are straddling grade levels, and so for those who had been going between 6th and 7th, it'll be continuing to do that at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Well, actually, I'm sorry, next year at 7th and 8th grade. So as opposed to this year where they're at 6th and 7th, next year they'd be at 7th and 8th, since you have the 185 and 210 students moving up. So no, not proposing to move anyone because we're just using our existing staff there to cover the needs at Valley. But we did look at that as well as what could we potentially do at Dunlap Middle to fit the need of the master's schedule based on current staff's certifications. So Mr. Johnson had asked for everyone's endorsements to see if there's anything creative we could do within the schedule there before even coming here to this point. And as strategic as he was, we're looking and asking and recommending for an additional ELA and social studies teacher at Dunlap Middle, as well as a full year Explore overload potentially. He and I are continuing to take a look at their master schedule and how we could be creative to make sure that each student is going to have a section of Explore within their schedule, but with each Explore teacher, so your art, your computers, your SEL, teaching every period of the day plus a prep period, it's just not coverable and manageable based on the current number of students, or the projected number of students. So as always, we continue to take a look at that. And then at the high school, because we did push back our course request deadline dates, and we have students finishing those up who are out or sick, we are going to have by next Thursday, by the end of the day, hopefully if not by Friday morning, have a more complete, this is what the picture is looking like at the high school. But we do know, just based on current enrollment, we're looking at 50 additional students overall at the high school for next year. So as those are being complete, those course requests are being completed and the data is being analyzed right now based on that, and just knowing the constraints of the current master schedule and how electives courses are full. We'd be looking at some potential overloads and also moving one of our current half-time science teacher to a full-time, so looking to adding a 0.5 FTE there. But again, I will have information to you by the end of next week on what that actually looks like. Additionally, at the high school, and again, this is a position that we have currently been contracting through the University of Illinois College of Medicine at Peoria for counseling services. We can't continue past this current year. We're looking to explore options with another agency, but have not come to an agreement on how our needs would be covered. So if we are unable to do that, which we would hope to know by the next board meeting, we would be looking to then hire our own full-time wellness counselor. And we would just be utilizing the existing budget that is used to pay for those counseling services.
Why is the contract not with UConn ending or not able to be extended?
And I'm going to have to turn around to Mandy. Is it that it's Mandy or Amelia? Sorry. Is it that they're no longer providing the program through them next year? Is that correct? Okay. Just want to make sure I remember correctly. Thank you. All right, and Dr. Hastings will present special ed.
First and foremost, I want to thank the board for being so kind and supportive of special education over the last year. I am in my 8th month here of leading the department, and I'm certainly enjoying it, and I'm so incredibly proud of the fantastic staff that we have serving our students with disabilities. So as part of the evaluation that I've done in the time that I've been here, I've noticed some things that we definitely need in order to help our program flourish. And so the first request that I have is to increase the power of our school psychology and social working team by adding an additional psychologist and social worker. In this graphic that I've provided for you, you can see that there are the totals of the different schools that our teams are serving and the number of students in each school. And down below are the recommendations from the national organizations for school psychology and social work that show that the ratios are much smaller than what our teams are actually serving. And in addition to the evaluations, which we've recorded on the far right-hand side of the graphic, our social workers carry a caseload where they're not only evaluating, but they're also providing direct and indirect service to students that have social work identified as service in the students' IEPs. So if we followed the guidelines here of what was recommended for proper ratios, we would be looking at needing at least 8 teams to be able to manage the workload that's going on across our department right now. So needless to say, we're feeling a little bit frayed, and we're not asking for that much, but the addition of just one more team to help us manage this workload.
You say one more team or one more?
One
team
more
member?
team of a psych and a social worker. Yeah. Okay. The second thing that I've targeted as a very important area of need is assistive technology. Looking at our program currently, we have one person who serves as an AT consultant and has a dual role where she's also a special education teacher. The responsibility of considering AT is a federal requirement through the IEP process. And the Office of Special Education Programs has put out a letter to all of the directors reinforcing how important this mandate is, that we are considering what is necessary to help children be able to have equal access to the curriculum in consideration of their disabilities, and looking at the different kinds of assistive technology that can help them be successful. Well, this first came to my attention as an area of need as I walked through our self-contained programs and looking specifically at our life skills classroom. The number one most important thing in a life skills setting is that students are able to communicate. Many of our children are nonverbal or have limited verbal abilities. And as a result, that means that working on assistive technology, matching students to proper support is essential to helping them accomplish the academics and functional skills that we're trying to develop. So unfortunately, when you're in the classroom, there are some augmentative communication devices, but the only ones who are really interacting with them on a regular basis are speech language therapists. So what this tells me is that our teachers and our TAs need more training on how to interact with those devices in order to help the students use them on a regular basis. AT is so much more than just augmentative communication devices. It can be as simple as different tools that we give students in the gen ed classroom, and accessibility when they're navigating tests and things like that. So one of the things that I decided to do was partner with an AT consultant, and with her guidance, the first thing we've done is survey the team, and we gave this quiet matrix, and we had 2 different versions of it, a long form and a short form. The long form was taken by the school administrators and those working most with AT, so the life skills teachers, and then some identified therapists. The short form was given to the department at large, and basically what these results are showing us is that we're on a low average end here of having an understanding of assistive technology and its implementation across programs. So I'm so passionate about this as a need in our district that I am willing to support this through the IEA grant, and I'm just asking for your support with moving forward and employing a full-time assistive technology coordinator who can help us with running set meetings, which is a special IEP meeting that helps us go through a formal tool to discern what exactly a student needs as far as assistive technology. And then what I would like to do is identify some of our related service providers to be a part of an AT committee that supports the assistive technology coordinator and goes directly into classrooms on a regular basis to provide training to the staff so that the students are using their tools, which will improve their communication and then help us get the teachers to access the curriculum so that we can work on those academics. Because all nonverbal children can and will read. It's just a matter of navigating it with the right supports.
So question for you, do you have an approximate cost on a coordinator, what that salary might be? And then how much would you say stipends, kind of approximate one?
Yes, so as far as a salary, it would be in alignment with that person's experience on a salary schedule, so looking
It's
at
more than a teacher salary?
what it would be about what a teacher, it would be a
Okay,
teacher salary.
okay. And then the stipends?
That is to be negotiated with the teacher fee.
So those committee members come from existing staff members, existing teachers that
And
take
so-
on that additional role.
How I envision this working, say we have a member of the motor team, an occupational therapist or a physical therapist who provides service to their caseload 4 days a week, then 1 day of the week they have release time to leave set meetings and go into the classroom and provide training.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any further questions?
Oh, we have,
I have a question. So is the coordinator funded through IDEA? Or was that-
Yes.
Okay. So there's not a cost to us for this coming year?
No.
Okay.
Okay, we're on our last request, and this is a request to restore the instructional program. One of the things we're struggling with right now is the implosion of the resource 2 level of service. First and foremost, really there is no such thing as resource 1 and resource 2 when you look at the continuum of supports in special education. True resource service is one of our least restrictive environments where students, let's say they have maybe a specific learning disability in reading or math, and they get minimal support, maybe 150 minutes a week or 30 minutes a day. But resource, with the instructional program being let go, the instructional students are still here amongst us, and they're continuing to be serviced through the resource model, and the instructional level of support, it far supersedes what that level of support is in the resource program. So when I sat down with case managers and looked at the students who they have identified as resource 1, those traditional students that have the lower level of minutes, compared to resource 2. In the center, you see the columns for the numbers that match each school. Well, I further dove into the data here and looked at every single student one by one, and based on the criteria of what would qualify a student to be in an instructional program, IQ and academic achievement data and functional behavior and communication, I have identified 20 students who actually need the instructional level of support. So with these students sitting in the resource model right now, what's happening is it's creating an incredible strain on the resource program because our teachers are over-servicing. They're not able to go into the classroom. They're doing a lot of pull-out service. And what the research shows us is that the Gen Ed classroom is the #1 best educational environment. So we're kind of working backwards. Secondly, it's increasing the level of TAs that we have. We right now have an inordinate amount of TAs, to be frank with you. And what's happening because we don't have the proper streamlines of the program is that the staff is elevating the request for increasing TA support because we don't have any other way to support the students. So this is another area of concern for us. And then some of our students have increased behavior because they're in over their heads and they're acting out that frustration. I mean, we're thinking that, we're talking about students that have an IQ, average is 100. We're looking at this group that is 56 to 84. And so there's a lot of acting out because they cannot navigate the educational environment in the way that we have it laid out right now. And that has caused a spike in some referrals and suspensions. And you have historically seen that over the last couple months, in particular at one of our schools. I think bringing the instructional program back will help us increase our academic achievement outcomes for our students with disabilities, increase independent functioning, and improve communication skills.
So when was the resource program, was that just absorbed or?
Instructional program.
Yes, the instructional program was absorbed by the resource level of support.
When was that? That description.
Yes, thank you.
When did that happen? You said restoration of instructional program.
Yes.
When did it cease to exist?
My understanding is, when the contract with CECO was terminated, there was a campaign to let go of instructional. So I believe it was in order to make room for the best program.
So 4 or 5 years ago, whenever the unwind started with CECO.
Yes.
So we're talking 5 additional staff members for special ed. Is that correct?
So with
So
the
2 resource, 3 psych, and a tech person. So that's 5, right? Okay. Thank you.
Wait, do that again?
She asked for a social worker, a psychologist, 1 technical assistant or,
AT coordinator.
yes, and
2 teachers.
1 with an IDA grant, a special ed resource for 2, so that's 5. Social, psych, tech, and then 2 instructional resource. That's 5.
So what we would be able to do is increase the level of support in our self-contained sequence and have 2 classrooms with 10 children each. The cap on a self-contained program, 13 students. So we would be able to service those 20 students in the supportive environment that they deserve compared to the multiple problems that I described with the pinch on the resource level of support, the increase in TA, and also behavior.
So currently they're pushed out into the regular classroom with assistants, or?
They're sitting in the gen ed classroom, but they're receiving an inordinate amount of pull-out minutes and being taught in the resource setting.
So they wouldn't be in a self-contained room at all times, they would just circle through based on how many minutes they need resource?
No, this is the instructional level. Think like self-contained.
So it'd be
like the-
self-contained, they won't be
Yes.
in the least restricted environment, they'll now be going back to self-contained classrooms.
But they'll have opportunities to access the
Sure.
gen ed through the special curriculum
When appropriate.
and lunch and wherever it is appropriate. If they can drop in for morning meetings, yes, we will continue to have those bridges. But we're looking at students that are 3 to 4 years behind their peers. And with the literacy movement in the district, there's a wild swing that is going to create this gap that we have, and achievement is going to be even greater between where this population of students are and at the speed of light that this curriculum is now going to be moving, and that's going to create more frustration.
Forgive me, I may have read over it and I don't recall, where would they be housed? 2 in each, 1 in each building, or both in the high school, or
We are looking at housing them at Wilder Way.
Wilder Way? Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Any other questions, or any other information you need?
Nope, just the summary slide there, the last
Okay.
of.
Mr. Adams, does that include the high school that we don't know yet? Or
Correct.
is that the 1 point? Okay.
Correct. So that any final changes would be in that update next week.
And you're thinking maybe 1.5?
For the high school, yeah, so we'd be looking at, really it's a difference of 1.2.
So do you have a total staff number here?
For
Total
the,
bodies?
for the whole bodies, so we'd be looking at, elementary ESL, middle school, high school, so we'd be looking at, that would be 8, in terms of actual new bodies.
Wait, 8 total?
In terms of new bodies, because our wellness counselor, literacy coach,
So it'd be-
those are existing.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any further questions? We'll move on then. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Information regarding the student handbook has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion about the student handbook at this time? This is just for discussion. Next month, we will be voting.
I
the high school handbook, and I'm working with Mr. Andrews with some suggestions, just to make it a little more subjective and consistent. Okay, all right, and I'll be looking at that as well, to see what changes have been made from previous years. I know last year, Henry and I really worked it with you and others to try to get it, instead of being a handbook and a class coursework book, so that it's all in one, and that's still gonna be the case. Okay, all right. This concludes discussion items. Board will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any clarifications or discussion regarding items on the consent agenda? May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that, Abby.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. He moves to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Motion carried. The board will now move on to action items. Bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report, bank statements are included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion to approve payment of bills?
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $3,991,036.12 as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Roll call vote.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Motion carried. Information regarding the proposal for purchase of the district vehicle is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion items. I may ask at the end of this, if it looks like there's support for it, to postpone this until next month's meeting. I talked to Dr. Dearman about a couple things. One, his first thought is to buy a used vehicle, 6,000 miles, for $600 less than a new vehicle. The difference is $600. I don't see the benefit of that. The warranty would certainly be longer with the new one. You wouldn't have the concerns about what happened with the older model. His point, he thinks that a lot of the, especially longer trips with the athletics and all, need an SUV, a fairly good sized SUV. So that's why one of these is an SUV, one smaller SUV. But my thought is it's worth $600 to get a new vehicle and a longer warranty, fewer miles. And then second, on the second car, we're talking about buying a used vehicle for $25,000, that's 22,000 miles. And I talked to Dr. Dearman, I know that. There are vehicles out there, Kia has vehicles with 10-year warranty, it's the best in the business. And you can buy a new one of those vehicles for about the same price as this. And Dr. Dearman said he was going to look into that. He thought that second vehicle, especially because some vehicles, a lot of vehicles, the rear two seats will fold down. Gives you a lot of storage capacity in that extended trunk area. And it would be enough for the secondary vehicle. So he said he was going to look into that. And I think that's a lot more value for the taxpayer to get a new vehicle for the same price as one that's 22,000 miles and is probably starting to run out of warranty. So I would move, if anybody will support it, to postpone this until Dr. Dearman can look into both of those. And
So that's your motion?
yeah, unless there's a time sensitive on the first vehicle, the one that is afraid that it'll get purchased away from us. I'd have less trouble agreeing to move for the purchase of the Ford Explorer XLT for $600 or more and have a brand new vehicle.
Okay, so Mike has proposed to table this until next month. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Who was that? Okay.
I'll give it to Linda, but I have some comments.
Okay, go ahead if you'd like to comment.
I agree. I think, Mr. McKenzie, you sent me some information that I was looking for on this. I just want to table it as well, because I want to take a look at the detail that we have, and because I want to ensure that if we're purchasing these vehicles, that we're going to save some money on mileage, but based on the information that you presented, Mike, that might not be the case. So I want to let the board take a look at this, and then, you know, if the vehicles are going to be used for, you know, the students traveling, like you said, you know, that's why we're getting the SUV, that's a different story. But when I originally brought this up, it was because we spent so much money in mileage. But if by purchasing the vehicles, we're not going to bring that down, we need to take a look at that as well.
I think it'd be interesting also to find out, I know we probably have at least 15 to 20 employees that travel between buildings. I know some specialists, psychologists, social workers, I don't know, speech and hearing pathologists, PT, OT, I don't know. But I think it would be interesting for the board to know how many actual employees we do have that travel in district multiple times, because that's necessary. I mean, maybe some buildings don't have need for a full-time person, and so I know that's the case with administrators, and our, you know, some special ed directors have to go and check their programs, so it's quite common, but I don't see how one or two vehicles is gonna change that situation, because they can't all share the same vehicle, so I think that's something we need to look at closer. So all those in favor of tabling this until next month, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, so moved. Thank you very much. This concludes the action items portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to closed session. May I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Meetings Act, the appointment of public compensation and performance of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, collective negotiating matters, litigation, security procedures, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed, and the purchase of real property.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carried at 6:50 PM.
Yeah, right. He knew, yeah, because I have family there, he knows.
Can I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I already got that. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, we're back into open session. It is 7:35, and that doesn't have, yeah, okay. No. Could I have a motion to approve the human resource consent agenda?
I move to approve the human resources consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holzhauser? Aye. Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wisdom? Aye. Kaufman?
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. It is 36, I'll say. Have a nice evening, everybody. It wasn't a record, but it was a pretty nice short.
Not too bad.
And then you said, okay, I know, and I'm like, tell me.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews, for your superintendent leadership tonight.